Hey friends, it's Alex, and what I'm about to share isn't just another travel vlog. This one shook me. Oman, Musandam Peninsula. Imagine standing on a rocky cliffside where the sea meets jagged stone and the wind speaks more than the people. That's where I found the story, no, the legend, of the golden masks. I'd come to Oman for landscapes, stories, flavor. I left with something far stranger. I was in Kasab, the gateway to Musandam, a quiet coastal town with warm people and deep traditions. I was filming local fishermen hauling nets and boats creaking against the docks when an old man waved me over. His name was Tariq, wrinkled, wise, with a voice like gravel soaked in honey. He poured us mint tea and said in perfect Arabic accented English, "You want something worth telling? Then go north, into the cliffs. There is a village where the women wear gold on their faces. They don't smile. They don't show their mouths. But if you're lucky, they will show you the truth." I laughed. It sounded like folklore. "Are they a tribe?" I asked. "No, they are a secret," he said, "protected by time." That night I couldn't sleep. I looked through maps. There was nothing marked, just gray terrain, unnamed paths. But the next morning I packed my gear, a few supplies, and something special, a handheld mirror, wrapped in cloth. I'd read in anthropological notes that some Gulf communities believed mirrors held protective power and symbolic honesty. Salim, my local driver, wasn't thrilled. "We can go near, but not in," he warned. "They are not angry. They are just untouched." We drove for hours through terrain that looked more like Mars than Earth. Red-brown cliffs, roads that vanished. I filmed a little but felt weird doing so, like I was about to enter somewhere sacred, maybe forbidden. Eventually, Salim stopped the car. "From here, you walk." He handed me water, a scarf, and a stare. "Go slow, and don't raise your voice." I stepped into a canyon chiseled by wind and time. The air grew drier. The path twisted. My boots crunched on ancient stone. Then, through the sun's glare, I saw them. Small homes carved into cliffs, roofs made of woven palm leaves, clay ovens, pens for goats, and figures, black silhouettes moving silently between shadows. But their faces gleamed, golden masks that shimmered like sun on metal. My heart kicked. I lowered the camera. This was not the place for lenses. This was a place for listening. I stood at the edge of the village, hesitant to take another step. My shadow stretched long across the dusty ground, and for a moment, it felt like I was being measured by the stones themselves. Then came movement. A boy, maybe 10 years old, peeked out from behind a low stone wall. His eyes, dark and steady, fixed on me with a kind of practiced calm, like he was used to seeing strangers hesitate and knew exactly what would happen next. He didn't speak. He just stared. I raised my hand in a slow greeting. He didn't return it, but he vanished back behind the wall. Moments later, an older man appeared, tall, wiry, with a white keffiyeh wrapped tightly around his head and shoulders. His hands were calloused, his walk deliberate. There was no welcome in his face, but also no hostility, just observation. I reached into my bag and pulled out the wrapped mirror. Slowly, I knelt and placed it on the ground between us, then stepped back. He looked at it, then at me. Then he picked it up. Without a word, he turned and walked into the village. After a moment's hesitation, I followed. We passed narrow walkways, stone courtyards with worn benches, clay pots filled with herbs and water. It felt like walking through a story written in another language, one I could barely begin to understand. And then she appeared. The first woman. She stood just outside her doorway, her black abaya billowing slightly in the hot breeze. Her hands were clasped in front of her, her posture proud, and on her face, the mask. Golden, polished to a dull sheen that caught the light like soft fire. The mask wasn't gaudy. It was elegant, functional, symbolic. It covered her nose and forehead, curving delicately under the eyes. Her mouth and jaw were veiled by a fine black scarf. She didn't move. She didn't speak. But her gaze was as direct as a question I didn't know how to answer. The old man turned to me and said the first word I'd heard in minutes. "Stay." He pointed to a low seat near a courtyard well. I sat. That's when I noticed more women, watching, from doorways, from behind curtains, all silent, all golden. The boy from earlier reappeared, holding a clay cup. He handed it to me without a smile. Cool water. I drank, gratefully. It wasn't until evening that another word was spoken. "Eat," said the man. He gestured toward a flat stone table where bowls of food were being placed. Lentils, flatbread, yogurt, grilled vegetables. I was being welcomed, cautiously, quietly. The golden masks never left their faces. But now, I could feel their eyes studying me, not with suspicion, but something closer to curiosity. The night came slowly, as if the sun itself hesitated to leave this place, a place sealed away from the outside world by more than cliffs, sealed by silence, ritual, and time. I sat alone in the courtyard, under a sky turning gold and violet. No phone service, no ambient sounds from traffic, just wind, goats, and the crackle of a distant cooking fire. The women with the golden masks began to gather, quietly, like mist rolling through alleyways, each movement deliberate, each gesture graceful. They weren't trying to hide. They were simply existing in a realm I had just entered, and they were deciding whether I could stay. Then came a voice. A man, maybe in his 50s, with sharp features and a deep voice, the kind you trust instantly. "I am Amin," he said in English. "I worked in Muscat, long ago." Amin was my bridge, a link between their world and mine. He motioned for me to follow him into a room with soft rugs, cushions, and an oil lamp flickering gently. It smelled of myrrh, sandalwood, and something metallic, maybe brass. He poured us small cups of bitter coffee and began. "The mask is called a batula," he said. "It is old, older than the oil, older than the roads." He explained how, in this village, girls begin wearing the batula around puberty. It marks a passage. It tells others, and themselves, that they have become women. But it's more than modesty. It's identity. "In your cities," Amin said, "women must show to be seen. Here, they are seen when they are covered. Their power grows not from what is revealed, but what is protected." I asked why gold? Why not cloth? Or another metal? Amin smiled faintly. "Gold is pure. Gold reflects the sun. Gold hides the mouth, the lies, and shows only the eyes, which cannot hide truth. Each batula is handcrafted, usually passed down, reshaped by heat and hammers over coal. No two are the same, though they may seem so to an outsider. Some had tiny etchings. Some had a sharp vertical line down the nose. Some were smooth and flawless. Some bore scratches like battle scars. "It is their signature," Amin said, "like your passport, but also your poem." I learned that while the outside world sometimes reduces traditions like this to oppression or exoticism, here, it's neither. It's choice, heritage, strength. Amin looked at me then, as if weighing whether to say the next part. "Sometimes outsiders ask the women to remove the mask for photos. Some offer money." I nodded. I could guess what came next. "They never accept, not because they are afraid, but because they are proud. To them, you are the one exposed." That sentence echoed in my head. I thought back to all the times I'd pointed a camera at something without thinking. Not with bad intentions, but with curiosity that sometimes became entitlement. But here, every gaze felt returned, every footstep observed, every silence full of meaning. After our conversation, Amin stood. "You may stay tonight," I asked the elders, "but only until the next sun." I thanked him deeply. Later, as I lay on a woven mat under an open roof, the stars above me felt closer than the world I had come from. The women still moved silently, their golden masks catching starlight, and I realized they weren't trying to keep me out. They were inviting me into something bigger than me, but only if I watched, not captured. Dusk wrapped the cliffs in lavender and fire. The mountains that had towered over me all day now seemed to soften, their jagged edges blurred by shadow. The temperature dipped slightly, just enough to notice, and the wind that had once howled now whispered. It felt as though the land itself was preparing for something sacred. As the call to prayer echoed faintly from beyond the rocks, not amplified by speakers, but carried naturally from a distant, unseen minaret, I was led by Amin to the outer edge of the village, where a circle of smooth stones surrounded a large fire pit. Dozens of villagers were gathering there, and for the first time since I arrived, the mood shifted from cautious observation to something warmer, more communal. Men wore loose white dish dashas, many with woolen cloaks against the night chill. The women, as always, were draped in flowing black, their golden batulas glowing like embers in the firelight. Amin leaned close. "This is not a performance. It is not for you. But tonight, you may witness." I nodded silently, leaving my camera behind as a sign of respect. My phone remained powered off in my bag. Nothing about this moment needed to be digitized. It needed to be felt. The fire was lit not with matches, but by flint and dry twigs, sparking the first flames with a ritualistic rhythm. Children sat on the stones, wide-eyed. A goat bleated from somewhere uphill. The scent of frankincense thickened in the air. Then the drumming began. It started with a single hand drum, tapped gently in a slow, repeating heartbeat. Another joined, and another. Soon, a dozen men played in a circle, creating layers of sound, some erratic, some steady, but all woven into one pulse. It wasn't music for dancing, it was music for memory. Then came the chant, a low, resonant hum, like the earth was singing. The words, in a dialect I didn't know, spoke of rivers, falcons, mothers, ancestors. I didn't understand the syllables, but I felt the meaning in my bones. The women rose. One by one, they stepped forward, not all at once, but like a tide. They began to move, slowly at first. No spinning, no clapping, just subtle gestures like prayers made physical. Arms sweeping low to the ground, heads tilted to the moonlight. The golden batulas catching fire glow with every turn. Their movements told stories, and though I didn't know the tales, I could sense love, loss, and pride in every step. Amin whispered, "This is for the ones who came before. They believe when the story is danced, the dead can rest, and the living remember." I was frozen, not from the cold, but from reverence. The youngest dancer must have been around 13, the oldest, possibly 70. But all wore the same face of gold. All moved with the same purpose. At one point, an elder woman placed a small carved bowl of burning myrrh in the center of the circle. The smoke curled skyward. The rhythm shifted, faster now, more urgent. I felt goosebumps, not fear, something ancient, something true. And then, one of them turned directly toward me. I held my breath. Her eyes locked on mine through the mask. 1,000 stories in one gaze. She took a step forward, and another. Slowly she raised her right hand, palm open, fingers spread, and held it toward me. I did not move. Then she turned and returned to the circle. Amin later told me, "That was a blessing. She sees you, not with eyes, with history." The ritual continued deep into the night. No one yawned. No one looked tired. The children curled against their mother's sides, lulled by drum and chant. I stayed until the final ember dimmed. When the flames had died and the stars ruled the sky, the villagers quietly dispersed. No goodbyes, no applause, just silence and the sound of sandals brushing sand. Back in the guest mat, I couldn't sleep. My mind raced, not with questions, but with gratitude. I had witnessed something that shouldn't be measured by view counts or comments. Something that would live only in memory. Tomorrow, I would leave. But tonight, I belonged. Dawn broke without fanfare. No birdsong, no sudden warmth. Just the slow, silent retreat of darkness over stone. Amin met me outside before the sun crested the ridgeline. He had the same steady expression as always, but his eyes looked softer in the morning light. He handed me a flat bundle wrapped in deep crimson fabric. "From the women," he said simply. I unfolded it slowly. Inside was a square of dark silk, embroidered with a falcon, not stitched in gold, but in a glimmering copper thread that caught the dawn light like a secret waiting to be spoken. In the center, a single line of Arabic script had been hand-inked in flowing calligraphy. "الذهب ليس ما نلبسه بل ما نتركه في القلوب." Amin translated, "Gold is not what we wear, but what we leave in hearts." I was speechless. No camera could capture this. No photograph would do justice to the weight I felt. As we made our way back through the cliffs, silence accompanied us like a third traveler. I wanted to ask questions, but I didn't want to break the spell. Amin, sensing this, finally spoke as we reached the last bend before the road. "You will not speak of this village's name?" I shook my head. "Never." He nodded once, firmly. "Good," he said. "Then they will remember you." Back in Kasab, everything felt louder. The clatter of boats at the harbor, the clink of glass at a hotel restaurant, the buzz of phone notifications. But inside, I carried quiet. A deep, warm silence like a stone heated by the sun. I didn't post the footage. I didn't share GPS coordinates. I didn't even speak of the village to the other travelers I met later that week. Some stories aren't meant to be told in full. Some places don't want to be found. They want to be remembered. But I will tell you this. There is a place in the cliffs of Oman where women wear gold, not to shine, but to guard. Where power doesn't speak, it watches. Where tradition is not frozen in time, but alive, breathing through silence, movement, and firelight. And if you're lucky enough to be welcomed in, you'll leave not with souvenirs, but with the certainty that mystery still exists in the world. That some doors open only when you arrive, not as a tourist, but as a listener. So yes, I saw the golden masks, but what I really witnessed was gold in human form, not around the neck, but in dignity, in presence, in history passed hand to hand, like a blessing too sacred to name. If this story moved you, let it settle. Don't chase it. Don't comment to ask where. Just know, the world still holds wonder. And maybe, just maybe, it's waiting for you to arrive. In silence. Until next time, stay curious. Alex.